Do you know what growing tomatoes and writing a book have in common? This is Nanda Dyssou, book publicist and the founder of Coriolis Company, and I'm here to tell you just that. First, books and tomatoes are both fragile. You need to protect them. When you first plant a seed, you need to be careful. You are your new tomato seed's worst enemy. You need to cover the seed with a thin layer of soil and water it very gently but consistently so you don't dislodge it. It's exactly how you need to treat the seed of your book idea in the beginning, with extreme care. Check in on it every day, give it your attention. Understand that it won't grow huge overnight. Don't be too hard on it. It's still in the seed idea phase. And don't get distracted from it by a new shiny idea. Know what you're getting into from the start. When I started gardening, I planted everything. Just like when I was in my MFA program studying fiction, I worked on 12 different stories at once. Flash fiction, novels, a memoir, some poetry, satire. Same with my gardening. Not only did I plant beans, lettuces, sweet potatoes, radishes, peppers, all kinds of herbs, but a ton of different tomatoes too. I had Cherokee Purple, Yellow Brandywine, Green Zebra. Those are all large heirloom tomato varieties, kind of the epic novels of tomato gardening. And you know how many I got in the end? Well, most of my non-tomato harvest was a bust. Sweet potatoes this big? Come on. Tomato-wise, I harvested 2 green zebras, which looked so cool, but they didn't really taste very good. 1 Cherokee Purple that was not purple at all. It did taste okay. And 0 yellow brandywines. Luckily, just like I did in my MFA program, I also went small and planted some momotaros, pink cherries, sun sugar tomatoes, and some other cherry and grape tomato varieties. Those would be the flesh and microfiction of this gardening writing metaphor. Amazingly, those all worked. Turns out that just like writing short fiction comes more easily to me, growing small tomatoes does too. So you have to play to your strengths. Speaking of seeds, make sure that you're planting the seeds of something you can raise and that you'll be happy to harvest. If you want to see your book sold at airports, for instance, make sure your story's scope is large enough and the storyline and prose are tight to qualify as airport fiction. If you want to harvest your tomatoes in the early summer, don't plant varieties that take 60 plus days to grow. I'm impatient, so that leaves me with growing cherry tomatoes and writing flash fiction. Again, play to your strengths. Protect your manuscript or tomatoes from outside influences. Tomato seedlings need to be staked to give them something to hold on to, just like your book needs a strong structure and outline which it can rely on and grow from. Seedlings are also vulnerable to insects, and you need to be proactive in removing them. Likewise, protect your work in progress. Your first or second drafts are so fragile, so be careful who you show them to. No doubting Toms allowed. As your tomatoes start to grow and flower, you need to prune them for better air circulation. Great gardeners know when and how to prune or altogether pull out a plant, just like great writers and editors know when a story has an unnecessary B or C plot, or a stock character that doesn't contribute to the overall narrative, or a scene that doesn't move the story along, and they are ruthless about cutting them. It's a good thing that leads to better results for the remaining plants or books. Of course, this also takes time, and time is the one commodity that you can never create more of. So do not let people encroach on your writing time or gardening time. Sometimes help comes from unexpected places. I recently found that 2 of my tomato plants wiggled a root out and poked it through the bottom of their planters. Those roots then made their way into the soil and grew into it. They're so strong that when I tried to move the planter, I couldn't. Those tomatoes found a way to tap into the garden dirt, which I didn't think was nourishing enough, and that's why I used pots filled with amended, fertilized, organic potting soil. Those plants thrived despite me. If you give your book and your characters some time, I bet they will reveal what they need. Your characters or your instincts may help you despite yourself. And while pruning and cutting is essential, don't be too quick to decide that something needs to be cut or that a method isn't working. Sometimes you just need more time to do something, and that's fine as long as you don't quit along the way. Some of your favorite authors took decades to finish their books. It's not a race. This is my 3rd year of growing tomatoes, and let me not tell you about my multiple unfinished manuscripts. Keep trying, you'll get there. Next year's video may have me buried in tomatoes up to here. Speaking of being buried in tomatoes, here's how this huge for me, harvest came about. So earlier today, I was going to make a sandwich and stepped out into the backyard to grab some tomatoes. The first one was fine, but the second one I grabbed came with a tomato hornworm. If you don't know what that is, don't Google it. Now, I'm the kind of person who works very hard at everything I do, including my gardening. So the moment I saw that my harvest was under attack, I grabbed as much of it as I could. Maybe I should have harvested them sooner, so thanks worms, I guess. But as an author, you also have to protect your finished work. I'm not just talking about copyright protection. That's important, yes, but also valuing your work. I always encourage the authors I work with to value their work enough to only submit them to publishers who truly appreciate them, or if they're self-publishing, not to be afraid to charge more for it. If you work hard for it, why give it away for free? Protect what's yours. With that said, not all expert advice is good advice for you. Take what I or anyone else may say with a grain of salt. In my first year of gardening, I read all the books, watched all the YouTube videos, visited all the forums about growing healthy tomatoes. I followed all the advice, yet my harvest was tiny, maybe about this much altogether. In my second year, my harvest was still so-so, but I stumbled upon an LA gardening forum where someone claimed to have a 7-year-old tomato plant that was still producing. We have a really mild winter here in LA, and my garden gets plenty of light throughout the year, so that forum comment was all the excuse I needed to not pull mine out at the end of the season, as you're supposed to year after year. By February of this year, my 3rd year, when most people are nursing a foot-tall seedling, my tomatoes were all 4 feet. Come May, which is now, I have 7 feet tall tomato plants that are heavy with pounds and pounds of fruit. So that's not bad for someone without a green thumb. And today I just harvested about 15 pounds of tomatoes. That wouldn't have happened if I continued to follow the advice to start over each year, pull out the old plants, start with fresh seeds or seedlings. So if you're a writer being told to abandon your book and start a new one because that's what you're supposed to do after X number of rejections, I challenge you to get a second opinion. Maybe what you need is to give your manuscript a rest and work on something else for a change. Giving it to a beta reader you trust for a second opinion could be what you need. Or reading any of the many wonderful books on writing technique and trying some of the new tricks may help you too. If I can't get rid of the hornworms mentioned earlier, I may have to try something stronger than the organic pesticides I've been using. You have to do whatever works. And you may also want to stop looking at others' gardens, where the grass may seem greener, but may be full of critters. Don't worry about what authors and publishers in New York are doing, because that's a different environment. Here in LA, we do things our way, and it seems to work for our climate. See what you can do locally to help your tomatoes grow, or help your book succeed. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Nothing will ever taste as good. After spending months or years writing your book, you want to make sure that it's promoted and recognized. Give yourself at least 6 but better 12 months to build your platform, publicize and market your book. Much of the work needs to happen pre-publication, but come pub day and things will bloom and come to bear fruit. And that is your time to shine. You wrote your book so you can share your work with others. Be proud of it. When you present your book to the world and promote it widely, people who read your genre get to enjoy the fruits of your labor too. I sorted these tomatoes into boxes by type and ripeness, and I'm going to take 100 or so photos to make the most of them. Then I'm going to pack up some of these tomatoes and take them over to my friend's house so my work can sweeten their day too. I hope this video made sense. Again, this is Nanda Dyssou from Coriolis Company. Thanks for listening and happy writing!